Hi folks, in this video I kitbash brother Corbulo into a Primaris Space Marine. For the base model I use a Blood Angels Death Company Intercessor. This was kind of a two birds with one stone scenario where I could use the Intercessor pose that I wanted, as well as use the Blood Angel upgrade sprue that came in the box. The first thing I did was remove the parts that I needed for the pose off the sprue. I tidied up all the mould lines and then stuck the legs to the torso. Before dipping into that Blood Angels upgrade sprue, I used the shoulder pad that had the small little blood drop hanging from the rope, and using my blue tack technique I gently removed that piece. The small blood drop was going to be a replacement for the skull in the Imperialis, but first off I needed to remove that skull, so using my hobby clippers and knife I slowly shaved it away, and once I was happy with how the blood drop was going to stick to the chest I then glued it together. Next up, I focused on the arm that was going to be holding the Red Grail. Using the right pointy arm from the Intercessor kit, I cut away the hand with my hobby knife. I then used a combination of my hobby knife and sanding sticks to smooth that wrist joint down. Before I committed by sticking the arm to the torso with glue, I wanted to make sure that the rest of it fit nicely together, so I stuck the arm using some blue tack. For the Red Grail itself, I used the one that was in the Sanguinary Priest kit, as it was like a perfect match. I then just used my hobby knife and sanding sticks just to sand it down a little bit so it fit nicely against the wrist. During the whole process I make sure to make comparisons against the two pieces. This way I know that the pieces are going to fit together quite nicely. Once I was happy with how they were going to fit together, I then glued them in place. Next up was the Exsanguinator. Normally brother Corbulo has it on his right hand, however I was using the Primaris Apothecary kit for this, so I used the arm that he had, which had the Narthecium on the left arm. Wasn't too much of a change, I thought it actually makes more sense, so I just stuck with it. I then dipped back into the Blood Angels Primaris upgrade sprue, took the arm holding a chainsword, and with my hobby knife removed it from the wrist. And then once I tidied that up, I used some blue tack again and stuck the hand to the wrist, as well as test a head from the Blood Angels Primaris upgrade sprue. Once I was happy with the way that the chainsaw hand was sitting on the wrist, I then stuck them permanently together with some glue. I didn't stick the arm to the torso though, as I wasn't too sure how the shoulder pad was going to fit. I admit I was torn with the backpack. I was torn between the old Sanguinary Priest one or the new Primaris Apothecary one. I did remove them both from a sprue and tested them both, and I have the option if I want to kind of go between the two. However, for this video I went with the Primaris Apothecary backpack with a little tweak. I was happy with the standard lamp light that comes with the Primaris Apothecary, so I stuck that on. However, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to use the saws or the drill or the syringe that comes with it. I wanted to make my own little diagnostor. So using the saw part, I cut away the blade and then cut ever so slightly underneath where the blade connected to the joint. And for the diagnostor, I used a sensor array from the Primaris Infiltrator kit. I wasn't too happy with how it was going to fit against the arm. I didn't like the idea that it was going to stick head on. It looked really odd. So using my hobby clippers, I removed some more plastic away. At this point, I almost broke the arm. I was quite thankful that I'd kind of held back a bit, but such a flimsy piece of plastic, yeah, I almost broke it. Once I was happy with it, I then glued it in place. However, I did glue this upside down, which kind of was a happy accident. I think it looks pretty cool. Before finally gluing it onto the backpack. I have to admit I'm actually quite happy with how this turned out. However, I was still debating whether to use the old backpack or not, and you'll see in a minute I feel myself comparing the two. If you've been enjoying this video, why not chuck me a like and maybe subscribe? It's absolutely free to do and it really helps me a lot. If it's not your thing, that's totally cool too. Feel free to share it amongst your friends as someone else may enjoy it. And here's that comparison. I'm still not 100% sure of which one I prefer. I'm leaning more towards the newer version, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. So let me know, which one do you prefer, the new one or the old one? Whilst I was questioning my Kitbash choices, I was a little bit displeased with how the Exsanguinator was looking. I wanted to add the syringe type thing that was attached to them normally. So using a aerial or antenna set from the Infiltrator kit, I carefully removed the largest one and with my hobby knife gently shaved down the bulbous bit so it's flat. I then glued that to the already in place Narthecium. In hindsight, I really wish I'd put a saw blade on here too. However, I was feeling this arm was a little bit too busy, so I didn't add it. For the right shoulder pad, I took a winged one from the old Death Company kit and shaved down the blood droplet in the middle. I then replaced it with a small chalice that was also from the old Death Company kit. I think it was hanging on the jetpack, on one of the jetpacks. I did have to make small control cuts to tidy the area before I stuck the chalice on. But once I was happy with that and it dried, I then stuck the shoulder pad into place. And for the left shoulder pad, I just used a standard one from the Blood Angels Primaris upgrade sprue. For the wings on his greaves, I actually used some blue stuff, folks. I got some blue stuff. I used it, I imprinted what I wanted on there, which was just a shoulder pad with the wings and the blood droplet. I made like a 50-50 mix of green stuff and milliput and slowly smooshed it into the recesses where the pauldrons left. I left it to dry. I removed it from the blue stuff and I did a bad job. However, I did try. Whilst they were drying and before I knew I did a bad job, I stuck some purity seals onto the belt buckle. For those of you who are new to the channel, I have a massive list of kit bashes and conversion ideas that folks in the community have suggested. You can find a link to it in the description below. If you notice that there isn't something on there that you'd like to see, let me know and I'll add it. I then also took the time to stick these vials to the leg. Now back over to the blue stuff. Once it had dried over 24 hours, I removed the parts from it, and like I said, I wasn't too happy with it as there were some cracks and some detail missing, but that's nothing to do with the blue stuff, that's to do with me and the first time I'm using this product. However, because I'm impatient, I didn't want to do it again, so I used 2 shoulder pads from the Blood Angels upgrade kit and I cut the winged droplets from them, sanded them down and used those. I will definitely try this again sometime, as I do need to practice and I can definitely see that there's going to be some positive outcome. I then stuck the wings to the greaves. I also want to do a quick shout out to all the folks supporting me over on Patreon. I really appreciate support. If you folks fancy supporting me that way, then feel free to head over. A link is in the description below. To finish the model off, I stuck it to the Primaris Apothecary base as it was too good to miss out. I then primed the model, painted it up, which left me with this. And here he is, my interpretation of a Primaris Brother Corbulo. I'm happy with how this ended up. It was actually relatively simple in the grand scheme of things. Not too much needed to be done, some simple arm swaps or hand swaps and a little bit of cutting here and there, but not too difficult. Remember to like, comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. Share the video around. Thanks ever so much for watching everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it and I'll catch you on the next one.